But, first I'm often asked in this 30th anniversary year of Air Talk, well, have the subjects changed a lot over the years? Some of them have. Some are just perennials. A couple that from the first week of the show changed dramatically. We had the mayor of Pasadena at the time, Bill Bogart, who was still the outgoing mayor of Pasadena, talking about this blighted area of downtown Pasadena that they were going to restore and architecturally bring the buildings back and get big businesses and restaurants and all. And I thought, boy, what a pipe dream. Of course, that's become old Pasadena. And also we talked about air pollution, which was horrible, particularly in the San Gabriel Valley. How would that ever be improved? And, of course, it is magnitudes of level better air quality than it was back in 1985 when we started. But one issue that has gone unresolved for 30-plus years is the missing gap in the 710 Long Beach Freeway. Between Alhambra and Pasadena at the 210 freeway, that portion, which is surface street only, has been the bane of Alhambra's existence. And completing it is perceived to be the bane of cities like South Pasadena, La Cañada, and Pasadena. Well, the debate has new fodder, and that is a draft environmental impact report that came out Friday looking at 5 alternatives for the route, including 2 alternatives for a massive tunnel to close that link. With us to talk about the options, council member for the city of Alhambra, Barbara Messina, and Mayor Pro Tem of the city of La Cañada, Flint Ridge, Donald Voss. Great to have you both with us. Council member Messina, let me start with you because you bear the brunt on your surface streets of the freeway not continuing from Valley Boulevard north. When you look at this environmental impact report, do you feel it takes you a step closer to a solution to your city's problems?
Oh, I most certainly do. I am so relieved to see this comprehensive report. And finally, there will be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Although it's billions of dollars, up to $5 billion for a tunnel that would close that, you optimistic that money could be raised to do that project?
Well, the funding for that is in Skaggs RTP, that it will be financed through a public-private partnership. And yes, that is a doable solution.
And if it's a public-private, does that mean it would be a toll portion of the freeway?
Yes, it will.
And would trucks be able to use that portion as well?
Well, that's still debatable. Caltrans still has that call that they can make.
And what about the safety issues of having a 6-mile-long tunnel under the San Gabriel Valley?
Well, that has really all been identified and resolved in several of the companies that do the tunnels. I have a piece here that gives a very condensed explanation of emergencies and
sprinkler systems, communications, and surveillance camera systems, undoubtedly.
Right.
24-hour monitoring of the tunnel. One of the challenges, of course, is if you have something that happens, say with a truck or whatever, is how you get the truck out of the tunnel if there's some sort of a crisis.
They identify all of that.
All right. So you, to your satisfaction, you feel like it would be safe to construct the tunnel. Also, Mayor Donald Voss of La Cañada Flint Ridge, you look at the study. What are your qualms with it?
First, actually, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well,
we welcome the study as well. This is something that we've pushed for the environmental impact report. We're still missing a lot of information, like a cost-benefit analysis of any of the alternatives that have been selected, and we should talk about the other alternatives because they're potentially viable as well. We've looked at it over the weekend. Pardon me. We've already detected a number of flaws. Actually, the second page of the draft environmental impact report is either wrong or the rest of the report is wrong. The study area map has been changed unilaterally, yet the report refers to areas that are outside the study area as being inside the study area. So we'll be going through the report with a fine-tooth comb to find issues that may be important during the public comment period, which has been extended to 120 days.
Are your biggest concerns overall the traffic that this would bring to the 210 freeway through La Cañada Flint Ridge?
It's a combination of things. Our primary issue with the tunnel, with the freeway tunnel, would be increased traffic in the form of health risk. We have 10 schools within 500 feet of the 210 freeway. They all predate the 210 freeway. Study after study shows proximity like that creates permanent health damage to kids, to children under the age of 10, permanent respiratory damage. This is something that, as a city council member, we have to protect against.
So you're concerned that if all these additional trucks bypass downtown Los Angeles and take a more direct route up the 710 to the 210 through Sunland, Lakeview Terrace, out to the 5, that then you're going to get many times the amount of truck traffic you currently get.
That's absolutely correct, Larry. And the connection of the 210 to the 15 some years back provided anecdotal evidence of that. We have much more truck traffic today than we did before that connection was made.
We're at 866-893-KPCC, 866-893-5722, the Air Talk page, kpecc.org. If you'd like to talk about the draft EIR, the 5 alternatives for dealing with the missing link of the 710 Long Beach Freeway from the 210 in Pasadena south to Alhambra, 866-893-5722. Originally, the freeway was going to continue as a surface route from where the end of the freeway is at California Boulevard in Pasadena down to Valley Boulevard in Alhambra. That was not built. South Pasadena, with a series of lawsuits, successfully fought that back over concerns over the large number of historic structures that would have been taken, the number of trees that would have been taken in South Pasadena. So alternatives have been looked at over the years, variations through other communities. They didn't want that, of course. So now you're looking at a light rail alternative, busway alternative, looking at potential tunnels. We're at 866-893-5722 or the Air Talk page, kpecc.org. Don in Hollywood, you're on Air Talk.
Hi, Larry. Thanks for having me. I'm actually pretty excited about the rail option in this EIR. I think that the answer to all of it is rail. We're talking about moving, cargo with trucks, and doing that is incredibly inefficient. They should be doing that with rail. Is there anything in this report that talks about an option for moving truck cargo with rail rather than having to have big rigs on our freeways?
Yeah, I don't recall anything having to do with freight. It's light rail to move people that's in this.
Yeah, the main concern and objective of this study is to address mobility, air quality, and congestion. And those are the areas that they are charged to address. And that's what the main focus of this report is.
I don't quite understand the light rail alternative. Not that light rail couldn't be an important piece of this, but the numbers of people that freeway handles from Alhambra to Long Beach for a light rail system, I mean, it just seems like it would barely make a dent in it. And the other thing is, the amount of time it takes to do light rail. If you're going to start in Long Beach and take that all the way to Pasadena, that's a huge investment in time that most people don't have. Mayor Pro Tem Voss, your response to light rail as a viable alternative here?
I think for so long, Los Angeles Basin has relied upon the automobile as the primary and really the only mode of transportation, and we're choking on it now. We need alternative means to get around Los Angeles Basin. Light rail is an important component of that. The success of the Gold Line, the East Side Extension, the various lines in Los Angeles are testimony to that. 15 years ago, we had a very ineffective light rail system in the Los Angeles Basin. Today, we have one that's powerful and growing. That's a component of transportation that we need to focus on.
But do you really see, I mean, not that there's a lack of merits in expanding light rail, but do you really see that directly addressing the issue here with the missing link?
Well, the issue, I kind of reject the issue in the first place, the so-called missing link. This first appeared on a map in 1937. 78 years later, we still don't have that so-called missing link filled. After 78 years, you might have to ask yourself, maybe it was a bad idea in the first place. The Beverly Hills Freeway was never built. We don't suffer from that. The Reseda Freeway was never built. We don't suffer from that. The Slauson Freeway, the Whitnall Freeway, and there's a long list of freeways that were planned that have never been constructed.
Well, our people would argue that we do suffer from the lack of the Beverly Hills Freeway, particularly, which could strongly alleviate the Santa Monica Freeway. The other thing is that the Beverly Hills Freeway was not built in part. This is a freeway that's about 80 to 85% already constructed. It's just a portion of it not finished.
That's not exactly true. If you've ever traveled down the Glendale Freeway, Highway 2, you might notice that it ends abruptly at Glendale Boulevard. That was supposed to continue on. You might notice on the Hollywood Freeway that there's a large gap between the north and southbound lanes around Melrose. That was supposed to be the intersection of the Beverly Hills Freeway. So I kind of reject that premise as well. There was infrastructure created to build the Beverly Hills Freeway.
We're at 866-893-KPCC or the AirTalk page, kpcc.org. Sandy in Pasadena, you're on AirTalk.
Hi. I just wanted to make a comment that the intersection of the 210 and the 134 creates a daily traffic jam, especially on the 210, where it's you have to exit either way to stay on the freeway. And I think if you add another freeway to that mix, you're just going to have a traffic jam that's worse than the 101 and the 405 intersection that happens daily.
Although I wonder if part of this would be fixing that with flyovers and the like to make those transitions safer and more efficient so that the freeway doesn't bottleneck there. Council member Barbara Messina of Alhambra, is that part of this or talked about?
Well, the connection was always intended to be there. When the 210 was built, it was built with access to connect to the 710. And the trucks that are currently mainly coming on the 210 are coming from the Mexican border as a result of the connection of the I-15 to the 210. So the comments are being made that the port trucks are going to come up from the port and use the 710, and that's absolutely not correct. The port trucks will come up to the 60 and go east so that they can get onto the rail. And the port trucks, the grade for the 710 is not ideal for trucks.
But you could avoid all that downtown traffic.
Exactly.
I just wouldn't, I mean, it would just seem it would be so advantageous, even with the heavy grade, to take the 710 to the 210 without having to go through any of the interchanges to the west.
The trucks would prefer to take the 5 rather than take that grade.
I assume you would disagree with that, Mayor Pro Tem?
I would disagree with that. The Metro has a plan for 180,000 vehicles per day through the tunnel. They have 5 or 6 options, some with trucks, some without trucks. And if you live in Pasadena or Glendale or Arcadia or Sierra Madre or La Cañada Flint Ridge, it really doesn't matter whether the truck came from the port or any place else. It's still a truck coming through the city. So I disagree with that. I think the caller makes a great point. The 210 freeway at its peak is the second busiest freeway in Los Angeles County. Adding 180,000 vehicles at that intersection to the existing, at the peak, 220,000 vehicles, it's a recipe for disaster.
We'll continue our conversation on the draft environmental impact report Metro and Caltrans issued Friday, looking at 5 options for the 710 Long Beach Freeway between where it ends at Valley Boulevard in Alhambra currently and the 210 freeway in Pasadena. If you have a point of view about which of any of the options is best, we're at 866-893-KPCC, 866-893-5722, or the AirTalk page, kpcc.org. Back after an update from Hetty Lynn Hurties. Good afternoon. It's Air Talk. I'm Larry Mantle. The future of the 710 Long Beach Freeway, our focus. Controversy over whether the link should be filled in with a freeway between Alhambra and Pasadena, an area where the traffic goes to surface streets between Valley Boulevard and the 210 freeway. 5 different alternatives were looked at in Metro and Caltrans draft environmental impact report issued on Friday. Which do you support? We're at 866-893-KPCC or the AirTalk page, kpecc.org. One of the options is to do nothing and just handle the way it is right now. Another option is for light rail to create more capacity there in the area from East L.A. up to Pasadena. There are also 2 different alternatives for a tunnel that would go under the cities of Alhambra in part, South Pasadena, and Pasadena up to the 210 freeway. And busways are another alternative that's looked at here. We're at 866-893-KPCC or the AirTalk page, kpcc.org. Esteban in City Terrace, you're on AirTalk.
Hi, I had a question for the mayor pro tem. Well, issues about pollutants with the schools in La Cañada. What about the schools that are around East LA and Boyle Heights and around that area? That's so congested with trucks and pollution that it's almost impossible to breathe down there. It's some of the worst air in LA.
Donald Voss?
You're absolutely right, Esteban. The issue is not to lower the bar. The issue is to raise the bar. We're interested in improving air quality all throughout the Los Angeles basin, certainly including City Terrace. But simply exporting that pollution to another part of Los Angeles County is clearly not the answer.
And you don't think that vehicle technology is making such advances that it's going to resolve the issue about diesel particulates and the like?
I think it has an impact, but diesel particulates are just part of the equation. There's also copper from brakes, dust from the roadway, rubber from tires. All of these go into the air and wind up in your lungs.
City of Alhambra Councilmember Barbara Messina, what do your schools deal with?
Our schools have suffered terribly. We have 3 elementary schools whose playgrounds are on the main arterial streets, Atlantic Boulevard and Fremont. Fremont Elementary sits right on Fremont. Their playground is right there. I personally attended the funeral of 2 fifth graders who passed away from severe upper respiratory problems. And to get those trucks and cars off of our arterial streets will make a quality of life difference in the city of Alhambra. And I agree that you don't want to pass it on to other cities, but that's just their interpretation. That's not the way the EIR projects that to happen.
What does it say?
It says that the truck traffic will decrease immensely, and it will not be that disastrous as La Cañada is portraying it to be. And I think what it does, and I don't want to be sarcastic about it, but it pushes all of the problems still down to the southern cities like East LA. And, it just says, the poor people down here can handle all of this. And it's just not right. It's an environmental injustice.
Let's talk with Jan in La Cañada, Flint Ridge. You're on Air Talk.
Thank you. I'd like to know what Ms. Messina has to say about the fact that Metro's own studies show that only 23% of the vehicles currently at the northern terminus of the 710 freeway, that's the Interstate 710, even want to get to the 210 or points beyond. That means that 3/4 of those vehicles now clogging the streets in Alhambra and the other cities between Alhambra and Pasadena will still be on those streets, making trips that are intermediate. Since the freeway tunnel has no entrances or exits, they will not use the tunnel.
I see what you're saying. So they're not going to be able to get off a mile or two down the road because there's no exit from the tunnel.
Absolutely, and 75% of the vehicles there now don't want to go to the 210.
Barbara Messina?
Well, all I know is if you come to Alhambra in the morning and you see the lines and lines and lines of traffic waiting to get on to the 710 entrance heading south, those cars want to go south to get onto the freeway. And in the evening, those cars come back and get off at the 710 on Valley Boulevard heading north. So I firmly believe that, yes, the freeway tunnel will address all of those cars.
We're at 866-893-KPCC or the Air Talk page, kpcc.org. Joanna in El Sereno, you're on Air Talk.
Hi, I am in El Sereno, and that is a neighborhood right next to Alhambra. And the tunnel would go pretty much, I looked at the map. I'm not sure what the councilman said that they moved the map, but it would go right under our house, and they would put a vent to air out the tunnel right into our neighborhood. And just like the council member was saying about pollution and air quality around her schools, what about El Sereno? Those schools would be right here underneath the tunnel. And that would be the same air quality problem that the 710 people that she said the southern people have been having. They've been fighting higher cancer rates and asthma for a very long time.
I think, though, the difference would be they're talking about scrubbers that would go into the air purification system for the tunnels. Councilwoman, you want to speak to that?
That's absolutely correct. They have showed and demonstrated, because I saw a demonstration, that when the tunnels are built, the portals, the scrubbers will scrub any particulates coming out so that it would be cleaner than the virgin air. So you will not be dealing with the same caliber of pollutants that we're dealing with now.
Donald Voss, you skeptical of that?
Well, I'm skeptical of that to a certain extent. The technology may exist, but I think we've heard that the air that would come out of the tunnel is actually cleaner than the air that exists in the ambient environment. That is
imaginable.
That's a little hard to believe.
All right, well, I was going to say, given some of the air.
But in the draft EIR, I haven't found a word about measuring air quality differences based upon a freeway tunnel. Anywhere further away than half a mile from the portals of the tunnels. So this apparently has not been measured in Pasadena or La Cañada or Glendale or Sierra Madre.
Mayor Pro Tem Donald Voss of La Cañada Flint Ridge with us. As you look at these alternatives under discussion, which one do you and you think most of your residents support?
Well, thank you for clarifying that. It's not a question of what I support. It's a question of what tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people support. I think the answer is going to be a combination of the transportation systems management, transportation demand management techniques, the improvement to the bus system, and possibly the light rail. As we move forward in Los Angeles County with more people and more cars, we'll probably have to look on a regional basis at a different way of funding roadways and transportation. That probably means vehicle miles traveled, some sort of taxation. Supply and demand may also be entered into that equation to try to reduce the number of cars on the road. We've heard that for years and years. This is our intent, to get cars off the road. We have an opportunity here to build something that will make our grandchildren proud, not sick. And I think we should be pursuing the 21st century solutions.
Councilwoman Barbara Messina of Alhambra, what do you think most of your residents support?
Oh, definitely the tunnel alternative, because it addresses the issues that the EIR and the study is based on, and that's mobility, air quality, and congestion. All three of those issues are addressed with the tunnel. And I agree, that we need to improve transportation, but that's not the point that we're looking for in this study. Light rail is another totally different subject matter, but it's not one to be taken up here. It's a monster of a solution if you look at it, what it does to the communities. When it comes to Alhambra and Monterey Park and East LA, it is a rail in the sky. It's an aerial. And that's totally going to be unacceptable and undoable. There is no money for that.
Want to thank you both very much for being with us. Thank you for coming in and talking about it on Air Talk. The future of the 710 Long Beach Freeway between Alhambra and the 210 Freeway in Pasadena. What should give relief to the surface streets of Alhambra and adjacent communities? You can share your comments on the Air Talk page, kpecc.org, coming up.